I'm back in Valletta for the 50th anniversary of the Middle Sea Race. It's 48 years since I did the race.
Robin Knox Johnston, the first man to sail single-handed non-stop round the world, was there to skipper Ocean Spirit for the British Navy.
We had quite a blow and all our sails blew out, so any chance of winning or doing well went with the sails. And this race, almost inevitably, every time you'll get a good strong blow at some stage and a flat calm at another. Everyone thinks the strong blow is the difficult bit. It isn't. The skill comes in keeping a boat moving when it's calm. And that's the challenge of this race, and I think that's why it has become such a classic.
Sir Robin Knox Johnston, one of the guests of honour at this year's Rolex Middle Sea Race, its 50th anniversary, hosted by the Royal Malta Yacht Club. A special edition, and so the rivalry between the Maltese yachts is heightened. Elusive 2 and X-Pact are perennial competitors in the chase for local glory. Of the bigger monohulls, the USA's Rambler 88 seeks a record-breaking line honours triumph. And Malta's Jarhead Young Sailors Foundation is looking to make it round the famous course for the first time. 606 nautical miles from Valletta, around Sicily, through the Strait of Messina, past the volcanic island of Stromboli, then Favignana, Pantelleria and Lampedusa, before returning to Valletta, this year's European City of Culture.
One gun, ready! Ready, sir! One gun, fire!
A record 130 yachts on the starting line. You're surrounded with Valletta on one side and the three cities on another. You feel as though you're in the middle of a coliseum. The start line is not the right place for the faint-hearted. You could be there on a 36-foot sailing boat and having a 100-foot maxi around the corner. A full year of work with the rest of your crew, and you've got 5 minutes to get it perfectly right.
The final start of 7 is at midday, and it sets the most powerful boats on their way to the open seas. Maxi 72 world champion Momo exits the harbour first, with Rambler 88 in close attendance. Line honours winner for the last 3 years, Rambler's American owner George David returns to Valletta annually with one single intention.
We have the record, which we've had for 11 years. It's unusual to hold a race record for 11 years. And we come back every year because we want to make sure that when it gets broken, again, we do it. We're a little irritated. We keep coming back trying to break it. We should break it. We set it in 2007 with a boat that's probably 15% slower than the present boat in a breeze. And so if we get the right wind conditions, we're going to break the record. This boat has high form stability. It's like a barge. When the wind blows, boats tip over. This boat does not tip over when the wind blows, so you put on more sail, more power, more speed. That's the simple version. We go fast when it blows hard.
By the time they reach the Strait of Messina, Rambler has moved ahead of Momo. On day 2, though, it doesn't blow hard. And a disappointed Rambler stalls, as does everyone else. Chances of a record dissipate, and instead they have to focus on holding off Momo around the rest of the course to defend their line honours title. For smaller yachts, X-Pact and Elusive 2, the racing is more dramatic. There's little between the XP44 and the Beneteau First 45 all the way up to the south of Sicily. Elusive 2, skippered by the well-known Maltese sailing family the Podestas, holds a slight handicap advantage over X-Pact. Elusive's an older boat and is less efficient with a smaller sail plan. X-Pact, helmed by Maltese Timmy Camilleri and German Josef Schultheiss, opens up a lead. One they need, as to beat Elusive on corrected time, they must remain more than 2 hours ahead of them. However, trouble lies ahead.
Got fish bombs on the bow here. We can't tack. Yeah, we need to reverse the boat. Let's get the boom on this side. Okay, back the main in.
Expat gets stuck in a fish farm, and with ropes caught around their keel, they allow elusive and co-skipper Christoph Podesta to make up invaluable time.
We've done pretty well through the night. Kept pushing and trying to hang on to our closest competition. We haven't got very close to the Strait of Messina. We're still a good 35 miles off, but our close competition is right next to us, so we're happy.
Into day 2, and that infamous flat calm descends. It has put paid to Rambler's record attempt, while Expat and Elusive 2 are within sight of each other, looking for the upper hand.
This is when gains are made, right? When another boats are stuck and you manage to keep on going. It's all about switching between the sails fast enough without moving the boat around too much, for example, and looking for the breeze lines. There's Elusive right here. We'll always keep a close eye on Elusive.
Elusive and ourselves, the two of us like to tussle with each other. We like to know where each other is on the water. And by using a known entity like that, we can tell how we're doing overall.
It's a game of nip and tuck. At Messina, Elusive edges ahead as Expat struggles in the notorious tide. And then, new weather brings new challenges.
We're just sailing, coming through the Strait of Messina. We're coming in with our big A2 spinnaker, and all of a sudden we got hit by a very cold katabatic wind falling out of rain clouds. We quickly got our kite down and we're on our jib again. All is well and we're under control.
There is no escape for Expat either.
We can try.
I'm hearing something rattling around up the mast. I quite like to be inside watching that rain.
Both yachts are beset by squalls from Messina to Stromboli. Nighttime pyrotechnics light up the volcanic island, and in tough conditions, Expat takes the faster line into a westerly wind to regain the lead. The competition is tense.
I think you are born with a competitive spirit. I think it's innate in you.
That spirit of competition led to the first Middle Sea Race in 1968. Royal Ocean Racing Club member Alan Green, now 79 years old, proposed the contest. Clockwise around Sicily, 8 boats took part in what was a Corinthian challenge, inspired by the famous 600-mile Fastnet and Sydney-Hobart races. A Swan 36 called Josiah was the winning boat on corrected time, skippered by now 89-year-old president of the Royal Malta Yacht Club, John Rippard.
I have to admit we were probably quite unprepared for it. And we were in such a state, such a mess on board with seasickness, cold, wet. You go off on a race today and you press a button and you know exactly where you are. And in those days, it was all a question of monitoring, logging your every move. So the difference between then and now is astronomical. You just can't conceive it.
It was calm as a mill pond when Ticker 2 slid into the harbour, an easy winner. The second time in 3 years that John Rippard has won the race.
Over the years, a who's who of sailors, both amateur and professional, have flocked to Valletta, seduced by the Middle Sea Race.
An exciting course renowned for sudden changes of weather and other tests of seamanship.
Bumblebee 3 is no stranger to the big ocean contests, and the Australian sloop is going well. A bow shot gives some idea of Chaitana's speed.
The boats built for speed have always caught the eye. Like 100-foot Slovenian maxi Ezimit Europa 2, which won line honours a record 4 times, including 3 times in a row between 2010 and 2012. Records that Rambler 88 can eclipse this time around. while up until this race, 35 different boats from 10 different nations have won on corrected time. And for this Jubilee year, the biggest ever fleet is testament to an internationally renowned, world-class event.
It's a dream come true. When we started this, I was in no doubt whatever that the formula was right. People have come to the course. You only have to go around it once to realize how fantastic it is. And the reputation is built on that basis, and I'm absolutely thrilled.
Looking to follow in Alan Green and John Rippard's footsteps and realise their Rolex Middle Sea Race dream is the crew of Jarhead Young Sailors Foundation in their J109. In only their second offshore race, they're guided by accomplished British sailor Richard Nicholson. Jarhead made their first attempt at the race last year, but storms forced them to quit just beyond the Strait of Messina. On board a pre-race practice run, and looking forward to the race, is 17-year-old Craig Ferrugia Vella, one of the youngest competitors in this Jubilee year.
I've sailed with the crew since I was 7 years old, so we know each other very well, and we are learning together to make that transition from dinghy sailing to yachting. Having this youth team competing against maybe the best sailors in the world as well, sometimes also keeping up and doing well, it's fun, it's always fun.
They negotiate the early part of the race without too many dramas, but on the night of day 2, Jarhead hits the same squalls as elusive and expact in Messina. A spinnaker wraps itself around the forestay and breaks, but they remain in the race.
We got stuck in a squall, lost our favourite speed. We were seeing around 38 to 40 knots. Boat speed was at around 12.7 when the speed broke.
As we went out of the strait, we were reaching at around 35 knots wind speed, riding the current, riding the waves, and we had a fairly fast sail towards Stromboli.
And Jarhead Young Sailors Foundation makes it into uncharted waters. There is a long way to go, but for now the boys can enjoy sailing around the iconic volcanic island of Stromboli together for the first time. Up ahead, the battle for line honours is being won by Rambler 88. They meet westerly winds of 40 knots, too late for them to affect that race record. But their closest challenger, Momo, is unable to keep up with them. And as Rambler 88 enters Valletta in the early hours of the third day, they can console themselves with the fact that this is their record 4th line honours win in a row, and their 5th in all, eclipsing Ezimit Europa 2's achievements.
Happy to be here. This was a challenging race. Had a couple of notable things. One was a big squall that we took it northwest of Trapani, about 40 knots for us. And we had a bunch of park-ups. We're ahead of everybody, and then we run into no air, and we stop, and they all sail into us. So I'd say the summary for this race is 0 knots to 40 knots. We'll be back again next year.
The city of Valletta is one of the sites that makes the Rolex Middle Sea Race so spectacular. This year, it is the European City of Culture.
I think the biggest thing that the Valletta 2018 Foundation has done is giving confidence back to this rundown city. It was broken both physically and spiritually. Valletta 18 has always been about the regeneration of the city. So one thing that we needed to do was to rearrange the facades of buildings, breathe new life into these buildings, and that helped breed confidence amongst people. It became a bubbling capital that is confident to tackle the problems of the 21st century and also to become an open city. From a fortified city, a city that welcomes people. Malta was always surrounded by the sea, so as you can imagine, there was always an influx of different people coming over. For some time, culture in Malta was considered a bit elitist, so one of our priorities was to open the doors for everyone, to become trendsetters, not just followers of other fashions. I think the only word that we can define Valletta is by saying that it is unique, because every street is loaded with history. When it was built in 1566, it started to attract some of the best artists, best engineers, so we want to continue on building on our success and creating Valletta again as a center of excellence. We have achieved great numbers, especially in attracting tourists, in providing new jobs. So Valletta 18 is not the end, but it is the beginning.
Back on the course, the battle between Elusive 2 and X-Pact remains intense on day 3. X-Pact, slightly ahead, has defeated Elusive in 5 out of the last 6 races on corrected time. Maybe a bit of history can bring Elusive some better luck.
So I'm here with John Rippard's grandson. John Rippard and my dad did the first Middle Sea Race together, 1968. And now we're back together for the first time.
The Podesta's father, Arthur, sailed in every Middle Sea race until he passed away in 2015. The Jubilee race with John Rippard's grandson on board makes it an event laden with emotion. And they stay in touch with X-Pact. Saddled by the handicap, X-Pact needs to find a way to open a gap between them and their rivals. And anything is possible, as the final leg brings the 40-plus knot northwesterly winds and some of the most dangerous conditions of the race. In the buffeting, Elusive overtakes X-Pact on the morning of day 4.
Keep wanting to get more sail area up, but the conditions are just a bit too on edge. We really want to try and get the A4 up, but we're convinced we'll just be completely out of control.
But X-Pact fights back just before Pantelleria.
We just overtook Elusive, who are just here to weather. They're still beating us on handicap. We need to have about 3 hours on them at this stage. They're sailing really, really well. But at least it's nice to be in front of them on the water, and we'll try pushing hard from here and see what happens.
Rounding Lampedusa, X-Pact retains the lead. But as the 4th day turns to night, they're unable to stretch out and shake off Elusive to overtake them on corrected time. In the early hours of day 5, X-Pact enters Valletta to celebrate another successfully completed Rolex Middle Sea Race.
Well done, guys.
Just 26 minutes later, Elusive arrives at sunrise, the best placed Maltese boat on corrected time in 14th place. It's been a titanic battle.
Pretty much from the start, we kept exchanging places with X-Pact, just hot on each other's tails, and it's a good feeling knowing that you're so close to your competition and fighting for every inch.
We knew that we had to push to get as much space between them and us as possible. However, in those conditions, you have to consider the benefits and risk of, say, hoisting a spinnaker in 35 knots of wind. You might pull away for a bit, and then if you wipe out, you lose whatever you gained and more.
It's the same conundrum facing Jarhead Young Sailors Foundation, who've been combating some of the most difficult sea conditions they've ever faced further down the course.
It's been quite heavy, the last western part of it. We focused a lot on safety and getting the boat round safely without any breakages. Yeah, we just want to keep the boat going as fast as possible and keeping the crew safe.
In their battle with the elements, they have ridden through the heavy seas with no small amount of courage.
Last night we had around about 5-meter waves. We had even around 30 plus knots. It was very, very, very tiring. Waves are still big, but we're handling it a bit better.
And after 5 days, the boys close in on dry land, coming in a very creditable 44th place on corrected time, delighted with their Middle Sea endeavours.
What up, guys? To finish with this team, it was an amazing experience, 5 days out at sea. Different conditions, but working as a team, the satisfaction that brings to you when you finish, it's amazing.
In the final analysis, Jacques Trontceau, sailing his new JPK 1180 yacht Courrier Recommandé, uses his considerable experience to master the conditions and celebrate the overall win. It is the Frenchman's second time competing in the race, the first coming in 1982 when he was 23.
C'était une très belle course. On a décidé de participer à toutes les belles courses dans le monde. Et on commence avec la Middle Sea Race cette année. Et après, on fera le Fastnet l'année prochaine et Sydney Hobart en décembre de l'année prochaine.
And so to the prize giving in the historic Mediterranean Conference Centre in Valletta, built originally as a hospital in the 16th century. Jacques Trontceau, who was meant to have retired from offshore racing after winning the 2015 Fastnet overall crown, collects the Rolex Middle Sea Race trophy. Of the 600-mile classics, he has just the Sydney Hobart left to conquer. And Elusive too picks up the Arthur Podesta trophy, named after their father, for the highest placed Maltese boat on corrected time, leaving the Royal Malta Yacht Club to reflect on another classic race and a job well done so far.
It's a special year for us. It's the 50th anniversary of the first race in 1968. It was a start with only 8 boats at the time. It's just grown from strength to strength, and today it's grown to 130 boats. That's a great satisfaction for the club.
Beauty, skill, endeavour, teamwork, rivalry, endurance, spirit and history. 50 years on, the Rolex Middle Sea Race remains a unique, popular and compelling sporting challenge.
We're very proud to have finished the 50th anniversary year with such a success, and we look forward to many more successful years.
Next time on The Spirit of Yachting, we're in Australia for one of the classics that inspired the Middle Sea Race, the Rolex Sydney Hobart.